Hey guys, it's Kyle McMahon. Welcome to episode 40 of Pop Culture Weekly. This is all about Tiger King, murder, madness, and mayhem. Justin, play that theme song. Pretend the intro music is there, but it's not. Welcome to episode 40. Episode 40 of Pop Culture Weekly. Yes.
Oh man, I didn't know that. I feel extremely honored now, right?
Yeah. And I am here with the one and only Courtney Lane.
Hey there.
Okay, so this is a much different Pop Culture Weekly than normal because we're not doing anything except talking about the best thing that has ever happened to my life, Tiger King.
Are you sure it's the best?
Or
the worst?
Tiger King, murder, madness, and mayhem. Okay,
I don't even know where to start with this.
Yeah, I mean...
You got a printed out dissertation of every episode. I really like that.
Literally every episode, because there's so much that happened.
I feel like you could talk about every episode, like one episode per episode of this podcast.
Yeah.
That much stuff that happens.
Yes, and more.
Right.
Because then you have to analyze everything together. I mean, it's crazy. So Tiger King is, if you have not seen Tiger King, first of all, I question your judgment. And secondly, you need to stop right now. Go watch Tiger King on Netflix. I never do this, but I watched all 7 episodes in like a 28-hour period. It's insane. That's how good it is. Courtney was like, you've got to watch it. And I'm like, I want to, but okay, but fine. So I did. And I mean, I'm really shook. My life has changed.
I believe it's real is like my biggest thing. Like, is this really how these characters act like on a daily basis? You know what I mean? Like, and it just never stops being insane ever at all. Yeah. Not one single time. It's craziness.
Yeah, that's the thing. So, you know, again, if you haven't seen it yet, you save this episode until after you've seen it, because it's going to be spoilery, but you have to watch this. I'm telling you, you have to watch it. As your duty as an American to watch this show. So basically, as we know, the show follows who we know as Joe Exotic, and it boils down to a rivalry between a big cat collector that has a zoo and a big cat collector that's an animal rights person.
And then, no difference between those two really at all, but you know.
So I love the memes, by the way. All the memes that are going.
I can't stop looking at them. Like I spent 7 hours of my life watching the show, and then I spent another 7 hours of my life probably looking at the memes from the show, and they're equally, if not more funny than the actual show. Yes,
it is hysterically funny, these memes. So, okay, let's just start with episode 1. Joe Exotic. Here are the notes I wrote. Joe Exotic, his music videos, LOL. That's what I wrote.
The one where he's like standing on top of the truck. The background is like this storm.
Yes.
Like, you gotta, and also, is that his real voice or not? Like, okay. I'm pretty sure it's not.
So notes. So it has been uncovered that Joe mimed, he worked with a country group that he paid $7,000 a song to record. And then he would star in the music videos for them, pretending that he was singing.
I really want to know what his real voice... I mean, I guess I can imagine what his real voice sounds like based off of what his speaking voice sounds like. But I mean, I've heard before, like, celebrities and professional singers, like, they don't really sing how they talk. But when he started singing, it was like, there is absolutely no way that's actually his voice. And if it is, why doesn't he have a country music career and just leave all the other stuff behind?
Right. Yeah, I mean...
Good. I mean, whoever's singing is really actually pretty decent.
So, just to give them props, it is the Clinton Johnson Band, and Vince Johnson is one half of that group. The other guy sadly passed away, as pretty much everybody in this friggin' series does, really. Joe would lip sync their work or sing quietly behind it, and they would mix in his voice.
Wow.
So even that was fake. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, the music videos, the guns, the guitars, Joe's, okay, and let's talk about this. so we find out in the first episode that he has one husband in the first episode, right? We just talk about the one husband, who decides to do his interview completely shirtless.
The whole time.
The whole time.
And I mean, one can only assume that he's doing like multiple interviews. I mean, for the most part, he's sitting in the same spot. So I think that they break up like one long interview over the series.
Right.
He was shirtless every single time. So I can only imagine that he just wanted to stick with that theme.
Yeah. And then he has a tattoo. And by the way, his husband is straight.
Yeah.
I
You
forgot
didn't
that
find
part.
that out until much later, though. Like, he basically used drugs and tigers to con straight men into marrying him.
Right, which
Well, and that was crazy too, because like initially when you see Joe's husband, you're like, I feel like he really liked him. Like,
yeah,
it seemed like he was like more in love with him than Joe was with John.
Yeah.
Like, that's how it seemed anyway. And then, you get later in the series and the whole like Travis thing happens where like Travis wants to get married to both of them or whatever. They want to have that wedding, which I'm pretty sure is illegal, but okay. And to me, like during their wedding ceremony, it almost seemed like John like didn't want to do it. And I felt like that. And I thought it was because he was jealous. Like he just wanted Joe to himself. And then later you find out he didn't want any of this. He just wanted the drugs and the tigers, and he's straight and he's sleeping with the staff.
Right. And so I did a lot of research about all of this because this says, I don't know why it has just become an obsession for me, which is weird, but also we're quarantined. So, I mean, what else am I going to do? Start, naming the grass again. So thank you for laughing. So, apparently Joe, this guy, John, really did love him. John really did love Joe, but also loved what females can bring. The nether regions down there.
Gotcha. Yep.
You know what I mean?
They can bring, yes.
And I guess Joe seemed to be like okay with that to a point, and then he got the girl up front pregnant or something, and then John realized, well, I really love this girl or whatever, and then it turned into a big fight. So it seemed like, at least from the research that I've done from his interviews and stuff like that he did love him at one point.
I think so too. But I also think that, I mean, like I love Joe and I think I loved him like right from the start. He had like a kind of a tragic like upbringing, and I don't know, like I just something about him. Obviously, he's very charismatic. He got all of the nation watching the show to love him.
Yeah.
Even though he is extremely flawed, and he somehow has had multiple husbands, and he is who he is. So like he has this like magnetic personality, or I guess like that's the only explanation. But I love him, and I think he's great. The more the series goes on, I still love him, but I don't like him anymore, I guess.
Yep.
So, like, I can see how John would be, like, ready for this to be a closed chapter. Like, he is very controlling of his lovers, but his lovers aren't allowed to do anything, and yet he can have multiple partners. Like, it just doesn't – it's obviously unfair. It's obviously based out of insecurity. Right. So, like, how long can you put up with something like that? It's a very manipulative and somewhat abusive relationship. So like, it's kind of like Stockholm syndrome at that point,
Yeah. And it seemed that when Travis entered the picture, he was kind of like the new thing, and John was no longer getting that like exclusive attention.
Right. Exactly.
Meanwhile, he's also getting this girl pregnant, and it kind of just created a perfect storm of, you know what, I'm out, in my opinion.
Absolutely. I think so too. But he did get a pink camouflage gun out of the deal. So I mean, 15 years of your life doesn't seem like that much when you get drugs and pink camouflage.
Yeah. And the man has a tattoo Now, if you're just doing this for drugs, you got a tattoo that says private property of Joe Exotic above your crotchal area.
But think about it though, like you are not just doing this for drugs, you are doing this for meth mostly,
Right.
which messes with you so bad. I mean, he even said later, he was like, I'm still whacked in the brain from all the meth I did. Like,
Yeah.
imagine how he was when he was actually on it. Like, you can make any decision, think anything when you're in that state of mind all the time. Who knows what reality is at that point? So yeah, I really absolutely do not doubt that he got a tattoo right there. And also, can we just talk about, I know this is the last episode, when he gets it covered up, like it doesn't even cover it up. It's like this little, like, why? And I just thought that was so weird.
They should have just made, it was like
it was like a little bowl or something.
Yeah, they should have just made the head bigger to actually cover it up.
I know, it bothered me so. I was like, really? That's your grand effort? I don't know. That really, like, out of everything, I was like, are you serious?
Yeah, and the guy's
I questioned absolutely nothing else in the series. But that part, I was like, why?
And the guy's like, the tattoo artist is like, oh, it's just a memory now. And he's like, not a memory anymore. And then he stands up and it's like, well, half his name's still above your crotchal area.
Like, you're still going to remember him.
Right. Like,
unless the meth was that much that you're just going to forget one day. Which, I mean, you know, I'm not sure. So
yeah, me either.
And also that John, he got his teeth fixed. He got fake teeth.
I saw that.
And he looks like a completely different person.
He does.
Because initially his teeth were practicing social distancing. I thought it was a good message for all of us.
It is.
Yeah.
But you know what was really interesting about Joe, and what I think at the beginning he really did do was, and somebody said it, he created a family of misfits. And he was the biggest misfit of them all. And I was like, you know what? That really kind of sums up his whole life. He really kind of did accept everybody into his crazy, insane world. And they were all misfits, whether they were, you know, drug users or former criminals or whatever. You know, if you were a relatively good person in his mind and wanted to work or whatever, he brought you into his family, which is... It was something that stuck out for me on the first episode before we got to know him more and more.
Absolutely. And I also think that, like, I mean, he is used to rejection. Like he talks about, and I think like his rejection from his dad, like definitely really impacted him in the long run. And, you know, I think so for him, it's not only just like, I want to accept people because, you know, I wasn't accepted and I never want anyone to feel the way I felt. It's also like, in a way, I think it might be, you know, if I surround myself with people who don't really have any other options, I am their idol then.
Yeah.
I'm like their savior, basically.
Yeah.
You know, I give them a place to live, even if it's not the best. I give them expired meat to eat for free. I pay them $138 a week to work 12 hours a day feeding dangerous animals. I mean, it doesn't sound great, but like, think about the other options that these people might have. Like, there aren't any, really.
Yeah,
like,
there aren't.
people sitting at the bus stop, they have nowhere to go, and they're just going to sit there until, you know, extreme desperation for food or water kicks in, and then what? You know, we're going to have to put themselves back in jail just so they can get a meal. Yeah. So, like, it's not the worst thing ever.
No.
It's not the best at all.
No.
Not the worst.